Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition is proud to present the 5th Annual Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. It will be held at the Circle Pine Center in Delton, Michigan, just outside of Kalamazoo, starting Thursday, June 22nd, and going through Monday, June 26th. That's right, Liberty Fest is getting longer and stronger. There will be presentations, discussions, bacon duels, and outdoor activities in an environment that is both family and grown-up friendly. There will be special appearances by Jeffrey Tucker, Dana Martin, and a few of the Freedom Fiends. If you have only talked about what a free society would look like, this is your chance to live it and see it with your own eyes. Now round up your friends and family and get them registered today at mplfest.org. And there's a discount for paying with Bitcoin. That's mplfest.org. Dogs welcome, longer leashes recommended.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
Yeah. That's one of the things I love about history is it's the story of people. It really is.
Yeah, and I won't lie. Every time Dan Carlin drops a new Hardcore History episode, I get a chub. I mean, I love that show.
Seeds of Liberty. 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 Seeds of Liberty.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 110th episode of the Seeds of Liberty podcast. As always, we are covered by a BIPCOT no government license. This allows reuse by anyone except governments and the agents thereof. You can find out more information about this at bipcot.org. So we are back. I am Jeremy, joined by Dave, as always, and Andre has returned this week after feeling a little under the weather last week. Hey, guys, what's going on?
I have returned.
Welcome back, Andre. You feeling any better?
Thank you. I'm feeling much better. I am feeling much better. I don't sound like I'm about to fucking die. So there's that.
That's good.
You did the other day. You sound like a bus hit you, and you were like, "God, I can't do the show." And I was like, "Well, you sound horrible, so don't do the show."
Yeah, it was a good idea.
I would not want to detract from the quality that is the Seeds of Liberty podcast by trying to put myself on there. Let me put it that way.
Okay, Andre, you've been here long enough now. You should know we don't talk about the quality anymore because that's almost always when things go horribly wrong, and and that's the show that we put out. So we're gonna forget you.
I'm sorry. There's a wooden desk right here. I'm knocking on it. We're good. I promise.
Thank
I swear.
you. So.
I got you.
So we are brought to you again this week by FeenPhone, and now, as always, by Room for Freedom, the app and website by Ben Stowe, the Bad Quaker. That is coming soon, and we are still super excited about it. So go check that out at roomforfreedom.com. This week, we have Joe Moutard from the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition here to talk about this year's Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. I got those right this time, didn't I?
Absolutely. It's great to be here, guys. Thank you.
You nailed it, finally.
Finally, after all this time. Yes, we had the other Joe on last year to talk about it, and I butchered it every time I tried to mention it. But after being there last year, I think I finally got it in my head.
You had a whole year to practice, and you nailed it, Jeremy.
In my head. So, Joe, thanks for coming on the show, man. So glad to have you here.
Glad to be here. I've been listening for a while now.
Well, it's always nice to hear.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear that somebody listens to all this crap that we put out. So, yeah, like I said, we have you here to talk about the upcoming fest, which is coming up very soon. So I guess for starters, if you want to get, the information out of the way, and then we can talk about it a little bit, or, however you want to proceed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm part of the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition, and coming up on June 22nd through June 26th at the Circle Pine Center in Delton, Michigan, we are running our 5th annual Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest. When it first started 5 years ago, this was just a very informal camping trip with a few friends, and it was actually at a state recreation area, which, well, it didn't quite work out as well as everybody knew it wouldn't.
As opposed to like, some private property somewhere. Are you alluding
Yes.
to?
So now the Circle Pine Center is a piece of private property, but the festival itself has been growing every year. We've been, it's not just a little camping trip anymore. It's now it's become a full-blown Liberty event, attracting some pretty solid speakers. Like last year, we had CJ Kilmer of the Dangerous History podcast, formerly known as Prof. CJ.
Oh, yes. One of our favorite past guests from our show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had Cal Mullany, Shane Radliff attends regularly from Liberty Under Attack. And this year, we're proud to welcome...
Those are some great guys.
Yeah. This year, in addition to Shane Radliff and Cal Mullany, we also have Jeffrey Tucker coming in on Saturday, the 24th. And then we have Dana Martin. I don't know if anyone knows her, but if you've ever heard of unschooling and peaceful parenting, you know that name. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So she's really happy to be here.
That's a lot of people. I've met Jeffrey Tucker. He's an interesting fellow. I'm not sure what to think about it. Everyone's got their judgments about him, but I think he is a drink best served, in reality, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be there to experience.
I don't know what that means, Dave.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about either, Dave, but we had him on the show. And
everyone's got these preconceived notions about Jeffrey Tucker, and then you meet him and he's totally not like that. So, yeah, he's interesting. If you've never met him, he's pretty cool dude.
I don't know, man. I met him at PorkFest last year, and he showed up to the the campgrounds where everybody's hanging out and drinking and doing whatever all day long. In the bow tie and the suit and everything. So like, he's exactly what I expected. That's what I expected him wearing the night that we did the show with him. Because I don't think did we do video with him? I don't remember.
Yeah, we did. We did do video.
He was wearing a suit and a bow tie, wasn't he?
Yeah, suit and a bow tie.
Does he ever not wear that?
Exactly. That's what. So like,
I was fixing to say, I think that's his trademark style.
I know. So that's what he was exactly what I expected. I mean, I got to meet him briefly last year, but like I said, we had him on the show, and he seemed everything he was to me in person after meeting him that he was on the show, just talking about these random things that he loved, and like McDonald's and smoking.
See, now, I mean, obviously he has his controversial opinions, but what I really like about Jeff is his relentless positivity and his ability to find, just awe and joy in even the simplest of things, and even just the way he, if you've ever done any of his books, read them or listened to the audiobooks, he has a very unique way of looking at the world. And it's, he's pretty refreshing to talk to, but he's obviously very well spoken, and he certainly has his chops as a libertarian presenter.
Yeah. Well,
and he is going to be hanging out with us and staying overnight on Saturday.
Nice.
So if you want to party with him, you might have a chance.
Well, that'll be very cool because as I think I mentioned it once before, since everything went down with me, I still plan on going as long as nothing changes during my next court date. I still intend on being there this year, so that'll be really cool to get to hang out with him because I was there last year and I had a lot of fun. And like I said, I got to meet Jeff like briefly at PorkFest, but I wasn't anywhere near hanging out with him for any length of time. So that'll definitely be cool. And I don't actually know. I don't think I've gotten to hear Dana Martin speak live. So that'll be really exciting too, because she's somebody I've known about for a very long time. Because that was the one thing that my ex and I had agreed on even before I became an anarchist, was that when we realized that we were going to have kids, it was like, yeah, we both hate the public school system, so let's homeschool them. And then I quickly found unschooling through people like Dana Martin, and I presented that idea to her, and she's like, oh, I like that even better. So I was like, perfect, we're going to do this. And
yes,
that's how we've been trying to raise our kids for the past 5+ years.
Yeah, she actually has had a pretty significant influence on my own daughter's life. So it'd be nice to actually meet her in person and be able to give her a good handshake and a hug. But yeah, I think her last big speaking gig this year was in Acapulco. That was the last time I heard her. I know she's done others, but
yeah. I'm sure. Well, that was a lot of people's last speaking gig, I believe. That's an event I don't think I'll ever be going to. I'm pretty sure my passport expired a while ago, and I'm almost positive I'm not going to be getting another one because the state doesn't like me. The state in general doesn't like me very much. Government, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be.
Right. We need permission slips to go around this planet now. Now, it's a funny thing. I mean, growing up in the Detroit area, there's an international border that I can look across. Canada is the other side of the river. And of course, in the pre 9/11 world, it was nothing more than paying a toll and going across a bridge. We would go there all the time. We would, because they had a drinking age of 19 and they had, legal hookers there. I mean, we would just.
Well, of course. Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah, everybody started going there as soon as they turned 19. And I mean, gosh, sometimes people would be, if they were just so sloppy drunk that they the border guards wouldn't even want to deal with them. So they'd just be like, just go through, get out of my hair, get away from me. Obviously, it's not like that now. Now they point machine guns at you, but.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, can you really consider Canada a separate country? Really?
Well, they can, apparently.
They're just a hat, man.
Yeah, they're not.
There's a lot of stuff going on in Canada right now that is downright scary. Like, you can't criticize Islam openly. Like, they will just come arrest you.
Oh yeah, didn't they? I was fixing to say they passed something in their legislature that basically what is it? That makes it illegal to engage in any kind of hate speech or whatever. But the definitions are so broad that literally anything can be that.
Now, and that's where it's fun watching Jordan Peterson over at, he's at University of Toronto, I believe?
I think so, yeah.
Watching him do his thing and watching the protesters that come up from them, and of course he's able to engage these people on a rational level, and naturally you get the insane screeching and freaking out, but I'm fast becoming a pretty solid fan of his.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. I actually just finished listening to his last appearance on the Joe Rogan show, like an hour before we hopped online, and I listened to him with a new set of ears because I spoke to Jim Jesus between the last time I listened to him and this one, and he did an imitation of him of Peterson. It reminded me how much he can sound like Kermit the Frog-ish when he starts talking because of his accent. It was just so funny. So I was laughing through a lot of it. But I listened to him, and then I've been listening to a lot of Thaddeus Russell lately, who I'm also a very big fan of. Russell. And Thad is a very big critic of Peterson in a lot of ways. So it's interesting. It was interesting listening to it now because I haven't listened to anything. I haven't listened to any like Jordan's his own podcast because I know he does his own thing. But I have listened to him now. I've listened to, I think he's had like 2 or 3 appearances on Rogan. I've listened to I think all of them, and I've listened to a couple of other interviews he's done with other people. But he's an interesting guy. I mean, I understand why he's doing this thing, but some of his other ideas, like I don't know, he's a little too conservative for my taste, I think.
Are you talking about Justin? Who
Jordan Peterson,
the professor.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson,
professor. Yeah, he's all right. He's still a little kind of lefty for me, but I mean,
well, he doesn't think he's lefty at all. That's funny.
Well, I mean, he's a professor in academia, so you got to take what you can get. But watching him take down these social justice warriors and basically say, no, I am not using your stupid pronouns for one of your 89.
I do like I do like that language rejection that he is doing though.
Well, yeah.
But in addition to that, if
it's just like, hey, your memes are shit. That's basically.
But on top of that, he has such a deep knowledge of history and of these of these authoritarian regimes that have gone and restricted speech and sort of put that into the public culture, right? And he can really show those ominous parallels that we're seeing today with the SJW culture coming out of the youth.
Yeah,
now listen to me talking about the youth. Like I'm 38, so now I'm talking about those damn kids, right?
Yeah, well, hey, it happens, man. Well, I mean, granted, I'm a couple of years older than you, but I've been talking like that forever. I mean, the joke around here was that I was the grumpy old man in the neighborhood, long before I got anywhere close to being old. So, which actually, now that I think about it, it really shouldn't be surprised.
I've been called a grandpa my whole life.
Yeah,
I can't say that I have, but there have been days.
There have been days. Well, we all have.
There have been days.
We all have days on. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, Joe, about his, because that's the thing that drew me to listen to once I heard about Peterson, looking into him even further, because it was like, oh, he does seem to have this understanding. But I don't know, maybe it was just I was a little jaded going into this this most recent thing that I listened to with the latest Rogan episode. But some of the things he was talking about historically, I'm like, well, I don't think that's right. I think that's basically the state approved version of history that you're talking about here. And maybe that's, and again, it might just be my biases, because I do tend to side more with Thaddeus Russell's version of history than I would what Jordan Peterson views as what his version of history is, type of thing, because they are they are kind of opposed in that way. And I don't know, again, that just might be my own biases, but that's kind of where I was like, oh, he does know a lot of stuff. I don't know if it's great stuff. I think it's something we were talking about last week, actually, about the fact, when Dave was talking about how the millennials are so much more, asking more questions and looking things up. It's like, yeah, but what truths are they finding? Where are you finding, where's this truth coming from? And for me, that's where I see the divide between people like Peterson, and I really hope they get I really hope Russell Thaddeus gets him on his new podcast. That'd be awesome to listen to the two of them go back and forth.
That would be an interesting one.
I haven't caught up on all of his yet, but his are amazing. If you haven't been listening to Thaddeus Russell's Unregistered, which he just started, there's only 6 episodes I think so far, but the latest one is with Gavin McInnes, and I can't wait to hear that one. I haven't caught up to that yet, but I highly
put that in my queue.
I highly recommend people check that out. He does like 2.5 hour episodes, but like his first one was with Michael Malice, who I love, and that was amazing. And then he had some
Michael Malice is hilarious.
Yeah, and then he had this woman, I forget her name, but she's a professional sex worker, and she's very big in that community, and she's been around for a very long time. But fascinating conversation. So I hope I know he wants to talk to him, so I'm hoping they set that up, because that'd be interesting. But that's, like I said, when you're looking at those two, it's like, okay, you both have truths that you believe, but where are those truths coming from?
Well, the thing about history is, once you get beyond the, facts and dates, you start to get into the actual stories of people, their motivations, and their opinions. And a lot of history, the interpretation of it is incredibly subjective. So when you have,
of course,
people who obviously have knowledge of the factual portions, when you can actually get them to square off and debate the topic of why things went down and what would happen now or what's going to happen in the future. I love that subject, and I love listening to them. And I think in both cases, you have some very strong intellects, and it'd be great to listen to those dudes together.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about history is it's the story of people. It really is.
Yeah, and I won't lie. Every time Dan Carlin drops a new Hardcore History episode, I get a chub. I love that show.
Oh, it's still one of my favorites. Still wish he could put them out more often, but I totally understand why he can't, because all the work he puts into those. Like the last two have both been 6-hour ones, haven't they? I think, or something like that. They're insane.
And when they end, you're like, no, I need more.
I know.
I listened to all 6 episodes of the World War I Blueprint for Armageddon.
That
there
was
more
so
than 24
good.
hours worth of content, and at the end of it, I'm like, no, wait, it can't be over yet. I'm not done.
That and what was it? Was it a 5-parter, The Wrath of the Khans? That was.
Oh yeah,
that one was insane too. Yeah, those. That's another one. If people aren't listening, he only puts one out every like 4 months or so, and they're long. They're basically, like he says, he basically makes audiobooks. A podcast that turns into a giant audiobook. But he's probably one of the greatest storytellers I've ever come across, at least in my own time, being around in my time. Guy's amazing. The way he can weave a story is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it draws
it's good.
Even people who aren't into history, they will sit and they will listen to him tell these stories, and they will love it. Everybody that I've recommended listen to that podcast ends up adoring it and listening to a bunch more of it.
Yeah, Hardcore History is the same way. The Prof. CJ's podcast,
Dangerous
History.
DHP.
That one's great too.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, I've fallen so far behind on my podcast because of everything that happened about a month ago. So I'm still catching up. I have like 20 plus, I think 25 plus podcasts that are in my queue, and a lot of them are two plus hour ones because I listen to a lot of podcasts that are long, like Sovereign Tech, which is amazing but also very long.
I have to start stacking them up and just having one day of each month that podcast day and just listen to that podcast and catch it up.
See, I'm kind of fortunate in this regard because I have a commute that's 1 hour in each direction for my day job, and then I also have a rather large lawn, so I get a whole lot of podcast absorption time.
Oh, it's time isn't time.
Ooh, you got a large lawn. when are we gonna set that thing up and start growing you some vegetables?
I do have
And
a
here he
garden in the
goes.
backyard.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, he already has one, Dave. Relax. Well, no, time isn't normally an issue for me. I just fell behind because everything that was happening. But normally, I have plenty of time because a big portion of my job is walking dogs during
What
the
kind
day.
of time are we talking here? Variegated,
And
English.
anyway, Dave. And then between walking and then driving in between all those stops, being out for like 6+ hours a day. Where I can do nothing but listen to where I can, I can just listen to podcasts the whole day long. That's why I listen to so many of them. But I was saying about Prof. CJ because I know first he went on his trip to Ireland and then he got sick, so he hasn't done he hasn't done any in a while, and then all of a sudden he just pumped out 2 in the past week, and I'm like, crap, now I have to catch up on those too.
Yeah, I enjoyed his Civil War project.
Yes, that was great. I love everything he does, and he's another one. I mean, he was there, like you said, he was there at the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest last year, but I got to hang out with him even longer at Pork Fest. He was up there for a little bit, and that was cool. He's a very interesting guy. His show is amazing, but just to sit and hang out with him and talk to him about stuff besides history, just like such an interesting guy, and he was so fun to talk to. So yeah, it's a bummer he won't be making it back up this year.
Yeah, he did actually mention that on his podcast that he regrets that he's not going to make it, but he did indicate how much he enjoyed being there and looks forward to future upcoming events with us.
Well, that's good. Yeah, like I said, I haven't listened to those podcasts yet. They're still in my queue because I'm so far behind. but I'll hear that soon. But that actually does bring us back to our original topics that we drifted so far away from, the fest itself. So you had said that obviously it's been growing in people over the past now for going into the 5th year here, and you guys have also increased the length of it this year too as well, right?
Yeah, we're starting on Thursday the 22nd and going all the way through Monday the 26th. Previous years it's also been in August. This year we went with June because that's when our grounds were available. Now it does of course put us directly over the top of Porkfest, but I also know there's a lot of folks that have been looking to get away from the insanely large size and bureaucracy that is Porkfest and get with something that's a little more grassroots, which we definitely are. Plus,
definitely.
We're in the
I
Midwest.
think a lot of people that listen to this podcast went last year. I think they had a great time. I think almost every one of them gave a great thumbs up that I heard from.
I was going to say I've been to all 5, and it's something that I personally look forward to tremendously every year because you really, it's nice to have some time without the Muggles, if you know what I mean. It's a funny thing. There are a lot of people with whom I have profound and massive disagreements, like about a great many things. In fact, some of them, almost everything. There's a lot of those people where I wouldn't even consider them my friends. Maybe I don't even like them. But the really cool thing is when you're in this environment with all of these people who are into the message of liberty, who share these common core values. Number one, people aren't taking your things, right? Nobody's going to steal the things from your campsite, and you can just come out there and be yourself. Not to mention that you can actually have real arguments with people that aren't, mudslinging and ad hominems and logical fallacies. You can actually have rational debate and engage with people, and then afterwards you can hug it out. Go have a beer, do some NBC, and whatever else you feel like doing that night. It is such a relief to be in that environment with all of these other people, and it really recharges your batteries.
Oh yeah, I agree. You know, like I mean, you were talking about how it's over. You know, it's running along the same time as Porkfest this year. I mean, I personally, I guess I got into this whole festival game finally at the perfect time because I did both last year, and it was the first time I did both of them, and it was a much better vibe for me in Michigan because you know, like you said, looking for smaller, more grassroots events. That's more my style. You know, I mean, even going so far back to like you're describing the first one, just a couple of friends camping, like that's more my speed normally. So
Yeah.
going too much bigger than that, I mean, Porkfest was fun for me because I got to hang out with a bunch of the Freedom Fiends that I had been doing radio shows with for over 6 months at that point, and I had been a fan of for like a year and a half before that. That I finally actually got to meet in person and hang out with, so that was cool. And there was a bunch of other people that I had gotten to know over the past couple of years. But there was just too much going. There are too many people, and still even though the numbers were lower than they had been from what I've been told, it was still just the much more quieter setting of Michigan is much more my thing. So I really enjoyed that, and like you said, it really is because for me. It was a no-brainer when it came to deciding when I heard you guys were changing the dates. I'm like, well, I know where I'm going in June.
Hey, we appreciate having you.
Even though it's twice the amount of driving time for me, because I can make it to, if I drive straight to Porkfest, I think it'll take me 5.5, maybe 6 hours. It's like 11 and a half hour drive to Michigan.
Oh gosh, where are you coming from?
New York.
Okay.
So, but
New Yorkistan.
Yeah, the people.
Well, I was going to say, you take the throughway and cut through Canada, you can shave a number of hours off, but of course, that's not always the easiest
well,
thing.
exactly. Yeah,
Powers that be.
having to cross the border twice. No, that's okay. I'd rather not even have to deal with that. Especially because I'm gonna have my kid. If all goes
That
well,
sounds great.
I'll have the Bip Tots in the car with me this year. Hopefully, they were supposed to come last year. Well, one of them was supposed to come, and then she had to back out at the last minute. So hopefully, I'll have the kids and the dog, which is going to be interesting enough as it is for an 11.5-hour car ride.
So, in other words, you'd be a guaranteed cavity search.
Yeah, almost definitely. And I just do not want to subject my kids to that or myself to that. Really, I've had my fill of the state in general. It doesn't matter, Canadian state, U.S. state. I don't really care. I've had my fill of government for this year and probably at least a decade. After everything's said and done, it's I've had my fill for that long, so I'm going to avoid it at all costs. So I will take the 11.5-hour ride. I mean, it's actually still pretty much a straight shot because I just drive along the edge of PA and New York and straight across the northern edge of Ohio. But whatever. It's like I said. It's still, for me. It's still going to be worth it, and I'm excited.
And it's a pretty drive.
Yeah, that's fine. And as long as I have my music and I have something to smoke, it used to be cigarettes. Now it's my vape. I'm fine. I can drive for hours.
Exactly. There you go.
I could be fine for hours and not care about it. And like I said, it's because there's going to be people I met last year that I get to see again, which is really exciting. And there's a bunch of my other friends who didn't make it to either festival last year that are going to Michigan. So it's like, all right, even more people I finally get to meet in person and get to just hang out and just relax. Well, with my kids around, it's never relaxing. But
Yeah, never, not quite.
as relaxing
Well,
as relaxing as it can be with kids.
One of the nice things about it too is because of the way the grounds are set up, there is a section of it where you can go and have quiet and family-friendly fun. But there's also a separate area by the main fire pit where the more of the grown-up party action is happening, and so you can have as much or as little as you want of either environment and really tailor it to your own experience, or you can go hang down at the beach, maybe take a sauna. But we have really cool grounds there. And of course, for our presenters, we have a covered pavilion with amplified sound.
Yeah. So definitely lots of things to do there, and like I said, I'll see if my kids make it with me this year.
I wish I had the time and the means to get there this year, but I guess I'm just gonna have to wait until next year.
We'll be there.
I have no doubt. I have no next year.
Oh, you cut out for a second, Andre. What was that?
I was just saying I have no doubt, and I will definitely be there next year. Sad that I couldn't make it this year, but I'll definitely be there next year.
Yeah, well, these things are, There are we've talked about getting our own festival up and running. How many times now, Dave? And we just never actually proceeded.
It's a lot of work.
It is, but these kind of things are fun, and they are like, I enjoy them because, like you were saying, Joe, it's an opportunity to have actual conversations with people, and even not even people that you necessarily would agree with on everything either. It's I ran into a couple of people there that had definitely had different ideologies than mine. But
for sure,
because you're in person, there's a lot less of that inclination to go right to like the mudslinging, like you were talking about. When
to go full YouTube comments.
Yeah, when you're not hiding behind the screen, it's a lot easier. Even after having a few drinks, it's still like you can have a good conversation and then just laugh it off afterwards, because you realize the goal. For me, like I look at it as like the goal of what most of us talk about anyway is something kind of like that to begin with, like being able to be in an environment where we're not subjected to all these ridiculous rules and regulations, even for this short amount of time, and we're coexisting and doing all these things. Like that's kind of like what most of us at the core supposedly want, the absence of the state.
Yeah.
So it's a
no
great
state.
Yeah, but so it's an opportunity to actually put that stuff in action, especially if you have some some agorist trading going on and stuff like that, and it's really like a miniature version of what we're talking about. So I think
bacon. There's bacon.
And lots of bacon, especially when Lou Fiend is around.
Good. Has to have bacon.
Oh, Lou makes bacon.
Ancapistan has to have bacon. And Ancapistan without bacon is not Ancapistan.
Lou makes bacon constantly. And yeah, I got to eat a lot of bacon last year thanks to Lou. More so, I mean, I don't eat as much as I used to anymore, but around Lou it's kind of hard not to. Finds a way to make it into every meal. It's great.
Well, bacon it's a magical food that does nothing to your body but good things, and it tastes delicious. So, I mean, you can just eat all you want.
Cures cancer, from what I've heard.
It does, from what I've heard, yeah, as well.
Was that you talking or your beard, Dave?
Dave.
That's just facts, man.
Uh-huh. Bet your beard put you up to it.
Anyway. So you said you've been there since the beginning. Now, have you been part of that? The coalition's been putting it on the whole time. Is that how it started, or did a coalition form because of the fest?
little background from me is I grew up on the right, pretty hard on the right. Full flag waving, hardcore neocon. Did my time in the Tea Party. Lo and behold. Yep. Around 2009, I found out I'm going to be a dad, and I started changing everything about me just because I was personally inspired. It was an intrinsic motivation. So I'm like, oh, I'm quitting smoking. I'm started running. I'm going to learn how to be a good parent. So I'm going to read about some of these things, and then what's this little bit of philosophy over here, now Facebook exists, so I'm going to go on social media and well, holy shit, I'm an anarchist. That's kind of my. But along that journey, somebody reached out to me, and it was a young lady from the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition. She invited me to her home to meet up with some other folks. And as soon as I sat in a room full of other people who thought this same way, who also questioned the state, it was such a tremendous weight off my shoulders, even for just that brief couple hours that I was with those people, and right then and there I knew, like, these people are automatically my friends. I have to be around them as much as I can, and I love it. And since then, of course, we decided that, yeah, maybe we'll go camping, we'll have a little get together, and it's the rest is history. It's grown from there. And of course, if anyone else wants to join us for that experience, you can still register at mplfest.org. That's Mary Papa Lima Fest.org. We do accept Bitcoin and Federal Reserve notes.
Yes.
And of course, there are still openings if anybody wants to speak or present, and people are more than welcome to sell their wares. We're also happy to advertise it if you want to.
Oh, cool. Nice. Deal. Yeah, I had actually was seriously considering giving a talk this year, but unfortunately, a lot of the stuff I was going to talk about conflicts with my situation that I'm not supposed to be talking about. And then of course it's made easier by the fact that like I said, hopefully my kids will be there, and it's a lot easier for me to commit to things when I know I'm going alone or I just have Murder Dog with me, because I can pass.
You just wear like a balaclava and one of those little Bane masks so we anonymize your voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll give it back to you, the people.
Yeah. Somehow I imagine that going very, very wrong. Especially if my kids are there, they'll freak out. But yeah, no, it's I hope a lot of people consider, if they haven't already, consider checking it out and going, because it really is. And I mean, I was asking about the beginnings of it, because I was the next question I was going to ask is, like, since you've been there since the beginning, then did you guys ever imagine it would be not only like, I mean, growing is one thing, you kind of hope a festival grows a little bit every year, but expanding from like this group of friends camping to like actually starting to rival what had been the biggest gathering of libertarians, at least on the East Coast, or possibly in the country for the past couple of years. Like, would you guys
honestly, we had no idea. At least I had no idea. I knew how much I enjoyed it, and obviously it started to appeal to others, and there was word of mouth spread from there. I didn't know it would grow quite as big as it had, and this is, even though I've been there every year, this is my first year playing an organizational role. So I'm responsible for booking and scheduling all of our speakers. But I'm glad to do it, and it's really cool experience. Not to mention that I get to have contact with all of these people whose content that I hear and see all the time. These content creators that I've grown to be big fans of, including yourselves. And yeah, I'm really enthused.
Thanks for the kind words, man.
Yeah, no sweat.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm really stoked though. This one, having some of those real big name speakers and looking at the way the attendance numbers are shaping up so far, this is definitely going to be our biggest one yet, provided there's no tornadoes or major economic collapses.
Well, yeah, I mean, and heck, last year there was even a gigantic rainstorm on the was it the first full day, really? Because it was Saturday, I guess it was. Or no, it was Friday, right? It just rained the whole day.
Last year we did have some torrential downpours. It happened early, and everything was basically soaked for the duration. But we still had I'd say our walk-in numbers were down because of that. But we still had bigger attendance than we'd ever had before.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, even with that, you still managed to have an increase, and it was a wonderful experience for me because I get to test my brand new tent out, which claimed to be waterproof, and I got to find out right away that they weren't lying. My Murder Dog and I were dry the entire time. It was wonderful.
Yeah, there were some people who weren't so fortunate, but
well, no, my canopy collapsed, and I pretty much lost that. It snapped in half from the weight of the water, but my tent was dry, so I'll take that win. Probably the happiest I ever was to give an Amazon review of a product without them harassing me, because normally I have to wait I get the email to remind me that I haven't reviewed it.
Oh yeah, that's great. Like, you still haven't put a review on.
I don't know, and most of the time
on it, here's a link to the item that you should need to review.
Yeah, but most of the time I'm actually happy they do that, because I honestly forget when they come in. Because everything else that goes on in my life, I'm usually it's like the furthest thing from my mind to like, oh, I got to write a review. Like in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, I would like to write a review for the thing that I bought, because I'm always preaching how those type of services, like that type of reputation type service, is how I would like things to be done moving forward. I totally understand. So like I try to use it as much as possible, but I forget. So those reminders are usually good for me.
Well, and who would have thought, a few years ago, if you had asked me if I would be comfortable making major purchases sight unseen, I would have told you you're nuts. But now I go on Amazon, I look at the stars, read a couple reviews, and I'm good to go, because we've proven out that type of user ratings and reputational feedback is a wonderful market mechanism that really does work.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Well, absolutely.
Can't say the same about eBay, but definitely Amazon.
Let me tell you all about my compact travel umbrella here.
Yeah, I mean that being able to openly review stuff changes the game big time. You know.
Well, and I mean, I can't like how many ANCAPs or anarchists in general talked about the reputation economy, because that's really what it comes down to. Once you remove the state from regulating markets, it really boils down to you as a product seller, your reputation and the quality of your product and the reputation it has. So it's nice to see that mechanism is functioning in a fashion on Amazon.
Yeah, well, even eBay before that, it gave a nice little proof in the pudding as well, because not just with their reputation ratings, but also with their dispute arbitration, and how effectively that worked across
yes
such a the world.
Which coincidentally is what I would like to deal with after I get done with my law degree, is arbitration and dispute resolution.
Judge Andre.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
Shameless plug, I know. But
Judge Andre on. We'll make an anarchist judge. What was this? Judge Mills Lane, but it'll be.
Oh God, yes, Judge Mills Lane.
Judge Andre.
Was he a boxing ref? Was that his thing?
No. Well, actually, I don't know. Was he? I think he might have been. I think he was.
I can't remember. I can't remember. I thought one of those TV judges was a boxing ref originally. I can't remember. I never watched any of them. I just remember hearing whenever they would be announced, like when.
And then they featured him on Celebrity Deathmatch as the ref.
Yeah, so I think that's what it was. Unless I'm thinking of it like backwards, because I remember it from that thinking it was. But I'm pretty sure he was. That was the whole. That was why it was. That's why he was. That was a shtick. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So my memory is not completely shot.
No, it's not. It's not.
So, anywho, I don't even remember how we got onto this conversation of Amazon. It was something I said.
Amazon.
It was something I said.
Tents. Yeah, buying your waterproof tent, and you were very.
Oh yes, exactly. Oh yeah, no. So
squirrel.
Yes, thank you. There you go, Doug. So yeah, that's what I was saying. It was the happiest I was ever was to leave a review, and I didn't have to be reminded. Like as soon as I got back, it was one of the first things I did. I'm like, yep, this tent is amazing. It claims to be waterproof, and I sat through a 6+ hour thunderstorm where and underneath a tree, so where it wasn't like I wasn't covered, but I was getting hit with the rain on half of it and battered with the overspill from the branch on the other side. Oh, yeah. So I was just like getting like pounded for 6+ hours in that tent with just water constantly. And the only water that ever got in was in the one corner that I forgot to tie down a second time. A little water leaked in because the flap came up a little bit, but that was my fault. Other than that, like the entire rest of the tent completely dry. So, but my point with that originally was, yes, even with that horrible experience, we still had a great time, and now it's going to be a day longer. So,
and for people who are a little squeamish about camping in a tent, we do have some cabins that they can rent out. So you don't have to be tent folk to enjoy this thing.
Pansies, bunch of pansies.
Or you can bring there's room for campers too, right? Or
yeah, we do have hookups for people with that like their glamping.
Glamp. Well, because I know Lou Feen will be there and his again. I'm assuming at least. You know.
Well, he has to have a trailer because he's got to bring his kitchen, and that is not a small operation by any stretch.
Well, no, he brought the kitchen in the pickup, I think. Yeah, to Porkfest because he didn't have the camper yet. For Porkfest, and he hauled the kitchen in the back of his pickup the whole way there. He made it work. I think it's easier with a camper, obviously.
Oh yeah,
a lot more room to store stuff. But yeah, so there's a bunch of options. I actually considered getting the cabins this year, but number one, my kids they've camped outside in the backyard a couple of times, and they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And being in the woods is going to be a little bit different, but at least they'll be around, being around other people. It should be, I hope it'll be fine. And plus I was like, if I rent out the cabins and then they can't go at the last minute again, because something happens, because last year, unfortunately, one of them broke their foot and the other one got sick the day we were supposed to leave. So it was like, so it was just like, okay, I guess I'm going by myself. But hopefully that doesn't happen this year. And, but I was like, if something does happen and then I'm stuck with the paying for the cabin for the whole time for just myself, I'm not going to be happy.
Oh yeah.
So Like I was willing to
The
eat.
good news is they
Yeah.
should have some other kids to play with there, because there's usually a pretty good spread of children of varying ages, and many of them unschooled, which is kind of cool to watch what free kids do when they get together and run.
Yeah, I got
I
this.
bet you that is exciting.
Well, yeah, I got to see it. I mean, one of my friends, well, a friend of the show, a guest we had on before, our friend Mandy Silver, she was there with her kids last year, and a couple other people that I know, and a bunch of other people I didn't know all had their kids there. So yeah, that's why I was actually kind of bummed that my kids weren't there, because it was like, oh, you would, that's why I wanted them to come so they could have that experience, because you'd see them running around all day long and all night long, always up to something, always creating things to do. It wasn't about having their heads stuck in on their phones, or like trying to watch like little tiny TVs or anything like that, or having their laptops out or anything. They were like out and playing and doing things and creating things. And something else I saw it was something I did see at Porkfest as well, which I like just in general, because I've seen it in other venues too, where the kids like that are also selling things and being little entrepreneurs.
That is awesome. That is one of the greatest things I could have heard about that.
Yeah,
One of the neat things I remember from our first fest was we were all sitting by the fire, and everybody was in absolutely no state to get up and go get themselves anything to drink. And of course, we were all completely parched. So he gave a nice, easy lesson in capitalism to one of the children who by offering money to walk over to the cooler and go bring me a water, right? Just by not actually creating anything new. All he did was relocate an existing commodity from point A to point B, and by doing so created value in my life. So I gave him all this great big lesson, and at the end of it cost me $2, and I didn't have to get off my lazy ass and get water.
And there we have the service economy.
Exactly.
yes.
It's exactly what it is. That's great. I love it.
How dare you oppress that little child by giving him money for
You were basically operating a sweatshop.
giving him $2.
I was gonna say-
giving him $2 for like what, 10 seconds of his time? Well, no, 10
I'm
seconds
gonna
plus
call
however long.
OSHA tonight.
Yeah, and for the remainder of the festival, everybody was using his services. In fact, he even grabbed a wagon and started hauling the waters to other fires just to see who wanted some.
Excellent.
So it ended up working out pretty well for him.
That is great.
There's no educational environment like the market.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like I said, because I saw.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. I know I saw some kids running around selling stuff, but yeah, just great. Like I hope my kids are able to learn those lessons. I try to impart them on them, but they just kind of look at me funny because it's it's dad telling them most of the time. So they're just like, okay, whatever, dad. But hopefully, when they get to go out and see more other kids already understanding this, because that was one of the appeals of the whole unschooling thing originally, was when I came across people like Dana Martin and other people that have been doing it for a while, and they were they talking about their kids from like the ages of like 9, 10, 11 and up, already starting their own businesses and actually bringing in a profit already, and like doing these amazing things, that it's just like it completely blows the entire notion that you need to go through this certain amount of schooling through some government approved situation in order to actually be successful in life. Like, no, kids kids that would be in, I guess, what, the 3rd, 4th grade at that age. I don't even know what 9, 10 years old is anymore. They, already being successful and already learning these economic lessons that will be more valuable than any memorization of history dates or any variation of sentence structure or
learning how to interact with people who don't happen to be the exact same age as them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Not having to ask permission to take a piss.
Yeah, so that's so funny. That's one of those things that completely slipped my mind for the longest time. But I saw somebody make a meme about it the other day, and I was like, that's right. Like, that is insane. Like, of all the things they make you do, like, you have to ask permission to go to the bathroom for for an extended period of like pretty much your entire,
15,000 hours.
Yeah, if you're in the classroom, you have to ask. It's like, may I actually go, do a completely natural thing that could actually kill me if you refuse to let me do so for a long enough period of time.
Physiological function. Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
But like that, it's like, when I thought about that, it's like, oh wow, it's like it really is a horrible experience when you break it down to these levels that most people just take for granted and shrug off and go like, oh, whatever, that's just the way it always has been. So they don't even question it.
No, you're right. They don't question it. It's like just a part of their life.
Well,
which
for
of course is the whole point of it, right?
If that's the air you breathe in your childhood environment,
Yeah.
That's why they start them young.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's to condition you to, I mean, because at a certain age, then you're allowed to stop. But then, it's still overall, it's like if you've already been conditioned to subjugate yourself that much to just be able to go to the bathroom to perform that very simple function, you're pretty much willing to subjugate yourself to pretty much anything after that, I assume. I guess that's the thinking.
If you feel so subjugated that you have to ask permission to, take care of bodily functions, I don't think there's any lower you can go. Like I don't think there's any more like base level you can drop down to.
Yeah, on that dark note, let's not.
So
at
the MP,
back at
the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest, there will be no permission asking to relieve yourself. We do have, even for the ladies, a lot of them like to bring their shewees so they can enjoy the same privilege as a man.
What is a shewee? I don't know what that is.
It is.
I don't know what that is.
It is a funnel-like device that allows women to pee as if they were men. So they can experience. Well, no, we don't issue them, but I was going to say a lot of people bring them camping, and then they kind of caught on because all of a sudden they realize that they can pee on things and write their name in pee and do all of these.
All the man things. No, but I was fixing to say they issue them to women that try to complete Ranger school in the Army. Mm-hmm. So because they're going to have to do that, they're going to have to piss. Off against a tree somewhere. There's no like walking off and popping a squat somewhere. But yeah, they've been extraordinarily popular.
Wow, I guess I must. Maybe I've heard of them, but like the name caught me off guard. I don't know. That's pretty funny. I don't recall hearing about them though. But anyway, back to the fest though. Before we get closing out soon, let's end on the high note of the fest.
Yeah. So again, if anyone is interested in attending, you can register at mplfest.org.
Yeah, like I said, so the dates again are why don't we run through all the information again, and then
the Midwest Peace and Liberty Fest will be running from June 22nd through June 26th, 2017, and we will be located at the Circle Pine Center in Delton, Michigan. Right. It's about 45 minutes south of Grand Rapids if you happen to be looking at a map.
Excellent. So, yeah. So definitely, folks, you have a couple of weeks left. Even after by the time this comes out on Monday, you'll still have some time. So please go at least check out the site and consider coming and getting to meet a whole bunch of cool people. And, especially for people who haven't been to any of these, like I said, last year, I had been to like local New York City fests, which really aren't fests because they're not overnight. They're not even overnight, much less camping. They're like in bars or crappy little restaurants.
I should also mention one of our famous friends. For anyone who followed the most recent election cycle and may have watched a certain appearance at the Libertarian Party convention on C-SPAN, Mr. James Weeks.
Oh yes, that's right.
Among us, he's one of our people.
Outstanding.
Oh yes.
So yeah, if you want to see a man in his thong, this is definitely the place for you.
Good.
Yeah, I got to meet James.
That's a selling point.
I got to meet James last year, and now I do two different. Well, I do the Lolberts and the Freedom Fiends with him. So I've got to talk to him more. But yeah, I got to meet him last year. He's a whole lot of fun to be around. We had him on the show shortly after he did his whole strip thing, and He's a
And
real
Dave,
fun
he's
guy.
got a badass beard.
Yes.
Yeah, he does. He's just a silly guy.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. So yeah, you can meet people like him, and well, like I said, there's actually going to be a bunch of other Freedom Fiends there for all of our fans who also follow the Fiends, because I think Lou Fiend, Randy England will be coming back, and
Diana Kaler.
Diana, I don't think is actually coming this year. Unfortunately, I think I saw that she had to make a choice between trips this year, and she chose another one. But Yak Boy Nick Hazelton is
Nick Hazelton, the anarcho-yakitalist, will be with us.
He is,
and he is speaking also.
Yes, so that'll be good because I got to hang out with Nick last year at Porkfest, and that was a heck of a lot of fun.
For somebody so young, he's very impressive.
Yeah, well, he's been.
I mean, he's got his shit together.
Yeah,
Wish I could say the same.
Yeah, please, me too. He's well, I've told him a bunch of times, and a bunch of some of the other younger members of this community that I've met over the years. I've said, people like them, I'm both thrilled that they exist and also extremely jealous of them because they figured things out so much earlier than I did.
Like, thank God you're here, but man, I wish I had my shit together like you did.
Yeah, I mean, heck, he was podcasting by the age of 15. And
Damn it.
on syndicated radio.
School Sucks. He was on School Sucks with Brett.
Golly.
Yeah, well, he called because he called into Free Talk Live and he called into I think he called into the Fiends back when the Fiends still took calls, and then he ended up on like regularly on the radio with the Freedom Fiends like at the age of 15 or 16. I think he started. So. And because of doing that, and then getting to meet Brett Venat through that, and talking through it with everybody, he ended up dropping out of school and starting his own yak farm at the age of 16. So yes, he's an extremely impressive individual, and he's a pretty funny kid too. Like hanging out with him when he gets to let loose a little bit is even more interesting. So. Yeah, I look forward to hopefully getting to see him too. So, yes, everybody, like I said, go check out the site. Consider coming, and if not this year, well, people like Andre who say, yeah, next year, yeah, we'll see. But yeah,
I will be there next year. I promise you, I will be there next year. I will do whatever. I will move heaven and earth to be present next year. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and the site to register again is mplfest.org, and of course you can follow the Michigan Peace and Liberty Coalition on Facebook, and we'd love to have you.
All right, awesome. Well, Joe, thanks a lot for coming on, man. This has been great. I appreciate you coming to talk about this, and I'm happy we got to promote this, and hopefully you'll see a little bump in numbers, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being there. So. Hopefully, I will see you in a few weeks.
Hope so, man. And thanks for having me on. It's been great.
Great.
It was a pleasure having you on, man.
Thanks for coming on to talk about the festival, Joe.
All right.
Thanks for filling in for Joe. Joe.
And say, yeah, we have many bald anarchists named Joe. So.
That's all right. Well,
that seems to be a very common anarchist name, I think.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Jeremy said, "Get me a Joe." So.
Well, no,
Any Joe will do.
I think I actually said something to the other Joe, and he said, "No, this is the guy you should talk to." I said, "Okay, I'll talk to this guy, and I'll talk to the other Joe instead." Fine, it works out well. Then I don't have to remember a different name; makes my life easier. But anyway, so yeah, again, thanks. This has been great. Dave, Dave, Andre, before we get going, anything else?
No.
Okay.
Just thanks everyone for listening, and thanks for the Patreon, especially your dad for pledging, and Veteran Anarchy for pledging, and Craig Cavaco for pledging.
Oh, Voltron.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks to everybody listening, and thanks to all the support that you guys have for us. We really appreciate it. Without you guys, we wouldn't really be doing much. So
yeah,
we're gonna start making Andre do some short videos to put on the Patreon, so you guys.
Oh
will,
Jesus. As long as I keep my clothes on, it's fine.
And thank you guys for what you do, though. I do love your show.
Well, thanks, Joe. We appreciate that, man.
Well, we try.
Yeah. All right. Well, our website is still temporarily down, so all of our stuff can be found. We're on Facebook, Twitter, pretty much everywhere else, YouTube and the
I think I'm gonna
podcast.
have it reroute to the Seeds of Liberty podcast.com.
Yeah, you should probably.
There you go.
You should probably get on that, Dave. So we will. Whatchamacallit? The all of our stuff can be found there, and the podcast can still be found on Libsyn under I think /Seeds of Liberty. I think that's how it works. Any hoodle. So thanks again, Joe, for coming on. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace, guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Seeds of liberty. 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 Seeds of liberty.
I love the Freedom Fiends. But in this modern busy world, I just don't have time to listen all the way through every episode.
There is a solution. Go to the World Wide Web and log on to digest.freedomfiends.com and subscribe to the Freedom Fiends Digest. Digest.freedomfiends.com has 20-minute best-ofs of each episode.
20-minute best ofs. Digest.freedomfiends.com sounds great. How much does it cost?
That's the best part. It's free. And if you listen at 1.5 speed, they're only 13 minutes long. Plus, the episodes are only about 15 megs, which is great, because I have a limited data plan.
Wow, I'm at digest.freedomfiends.com right now. It's so simple to use. And anyone who doesn't have 13 minutes to listen to the Freedom Fiends is a big old statist.
I agree with you about people who can't find 13 minutes to listen to the Freedom Fiends Digest. That's digest.freedomfiends.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgoristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agorist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, go with AgoristHosting.com.